Lindsay of Ginger Cake Patterns and Design, and today we're going to talk a little bit about mending. I know a lot of you are experienced sewers and you're like, why are we going to talk about this? Well, this video is for people who are just beginning to sew and want to use sewing for the practical side of mending some of their favorite clothes. A lot of us, clothes have gotten so cheap, people just kind of throw out stuff that might be, have a little hole or missing a button or something like that, and it's really sort of a shame because you can easily fix these things yourself and not have to go out and buy new clothes and enjoy the things that you already have. So I think that's a really good endeavor and something important to learn. Also, I want to introduce you to my sponsor for this video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online platform. It has over 25,000 classes, all about creative endeavors. They are anything from macrame to watercolors to learning how to use creative computer programs, so all sorts of cool things. And I'm going to show you how I took this class on stop motion, which is a really fun and cute little way to make little videos. My kids are loving it. We've had a great time with it. So watch this, and I'll talk some more about it. So stop motion is simply taking a bunch of still photos, adding them together to create these kind of little movie magics, like this mug turning and filling with whipped cream. So the class goes through, it's about a 8 or 10 less than 10-minute classes, and it's always centered around a goal, like you get to actually create a project. So we had a great time making it. But when you get on Skillshare, you can cruise around and look at all the different classes. Like, here's what the platform looks like when you log on, and it's just really, like, it's a beautiful website, and there's so many classes to look through. And with my link below, the first 1,000 people will get 2 free months of Skillshare, and then after that it's less than $10. Okay, I have 4 little mending projects I want to do today. The first is, these are some pajama bottoms, and there's a hole along the seam, and that's really easy to fix with a simple running stitch, needle and thread. You can do that on your sewing machine, but for a lot of people who don't have a sewing machine, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do it with a really simple stitch. So that is project number 1. So let's get to it. Okay, here's my pair of pajama bottoms I'm going to fix. So the first thing you do is you turn them inside out. And here is the hole. It's like right in the crotch area. It's not, and these are a favorite pair of pajamas. So you can see you have to do this from the wrong side. So you turn it inside out, and what you're going to do is put a little pin in. Hold it in place. Okay? Next we're going to thread our needle, and I'm using a pretty long needle. Often if you get a sewing kit, it comes with a short needle, and that's fine too. Okay, so we're going to thread our needle, and this is what we're going to do on all these projects. Just put the needle through the eye, or put the thread through the eye, and clip. And you want to tie a knot at the end of your thread. Just a simple knot. You could double knot it if you want, or sometimes I do like I'll kind of fold it over and knot it that way, just to make sure that I have a big enough knot. Okay, so you see the knot there. Then all you need to do is just come, now don't start right here where the mending area is. You want to start a little bit ahead. And all you're doing here is going in and out. In and out. You don't want to make them too big. You don't want to make your stitches too big, because that be a problem too. Okay, so we're just going back and forth. Now one little trick is you can kind of keep your needle in and go back, you know, just insert it like this. You can see that. And you don't want to pull things too tight. Make sure that everything lays nice and flat. Just in and out. This is called a running stitch because it's basically running in and out, in and out, in and out. And we're there. So we're just going to tie a knot. And I usually just tie a knot at the end by kind of taking a little bit of the fabric and then looping it back through. Maybe do that twice. There we go. Cut your thread off. Check the other side. Okay, turn it right side out. Now, I mean, that's not perfect. It'd be better with a sewing machine, but it's better for now. It definitely fixes up that little hole. And so that can be applied to a lot of things, especially a side seam on like a sweater or a coat or a variety of things. So, number one, mending, just a simple running stitch. Very useful. My next little mending thing is I'm going to put a button on this nice shirt. This is a nice shirt of my husband's, and I have the button that fell off, and I'm just going to put it on right here. And let me show you how to do that real quick. And I think that's going to be really useful for all sorts of applications, putting a button on. Okay, next we're going to put the button back on. Here's the button. You try to use one, you know, often shirts will have a little extra button stash on them. Let's see if this one does. Yep, look, this one, nicer shirts. This is just a shirt from Land's End. It's my husband's shirt. They'll often have a little button stash. But I happen to have the button that fell off. We were able to catch it. You know, often you don't. So you can either look through your stash and, you know, find a button, go to the store and buy one, or look on the shirt, especially men's shirts, or, you know, nicer ladies' shirts often have the button to use. And what I'm going to do is just hold it in place. You can often see kind of like where the button was by inspecting the fabric. So you want to get it in its place in about the same spot. Put it right there. And I'm just going to use that same needle and thread I was using earlier. Again, this is kind of a long needle, but it's going to work here for our purposes. So put the button aside for a minute, and you're looking right where the button was before, and we're going to tie a knot here. Now this is a different method. I'm not going to tie a knot at the end. Instead, I'm just going to do a couple loops right here. You could tie a knot at the end, that'd be fine. And then it's nice and secure. And I'm going to go ahead and clip off that thread because we don't want that poking out from behind the button. Okay. So now that I know it's nice and secure, I'm going to take it, I'm going to place the needle through one of the buttonholes. Place it right in place. Now look at the other buttons and make sure, so this one is kind of placed like this. And what they're doing, you want to kind of check with the other ones. They're not going back and forth like this. They're doing a crisscross. So we're going to do that too. You're holding it in place. It really only takes, I usually will take, you're holding it in place, making sure it doesn't move around a whole bunch, and then kind of looking. There we go. So I'm making the X the first time. And now my button is in place. And then you're simply going back and forth and back and forth. maybe like 3 times on each button, on each hole, okay? You can alternate if you want. And what's nice too is you can turn it over to the back and kind of see where to go. Like now I know I need to go here to get it in, right there. Okay, so you have the button sewn on, and at first I was like, oh no, because I realized it wasn't centered, and this is called the placket. It wasn't centered in the placket, but then you look at the other buttons that are already on there, they're not centered in the placket either. So I think it's going to be a really good fit. So this is the finishing touch for putting on buttons. So it's in, and my thread is coming out the back side, okay, and I'm just going to kind of come in here. I'm not going to go through one of the buttonholes. I'm just going to stick the needle kind of through the back right there, if you can see that, okay? And then you do this, you do a circle, or maybe 5 times around the back. You know, it's like between the button and the fabric. And then you take your needle, you poke it right through all those threads, like this. See that? You create a loop with your thread right there, pull it on through. And then I just do it one more time for good measure. And that really secures your button and gives you a nice finish. And you can see how nicely done that is. And this button is going to stay on really well. I'm just going to trim it off right there. And done. Button accomplished. Okay, next I have this throw pillow that I've had for some years, and I've left it half open like this. I originally made it and I sewed it closed, but now it's been laying open, and this is great for a variety of things: to sew a pillow closed, to sew a cushion closed, to sew a stuffed animal closed. I've used the same method to fix holes on favorite stuffed animals. So this is going to be really easy, and I'm going to show you how to do that right here. And now I'm just going to do a little stitch here. And I call this a ladder stitch. I've been corrected. It's not a ladder stitch. I forget what I was corrected that it was called. But I call it that because I make a little ladder. You can also, I'm going to show you a different stitch. So this is the easiest. And you just kind of make sure you get both layers. And it comes along, it'll be a nice secure stitch. Another way to do it is you come in here, this is called a blind stitch, so you can't even see, and you just pick up one layer and not the other side. See, because this is folded under, so you pick up the one layer. This takes a little longer, but looks a little nicer in the long run. And then you come on this side, so you can't see it there. So we're gonna, you can make these fairly long stitches too, because this is just a throw pillow. So then come in here, and I wouldn't tighten on each one if you're doing this. You tighten after maybe 4 or 5 stitches. So coming in just one layer of this folded piece. So again, this is mending, so it wasn't perfect. It's been, I've used this pillow for a while. And then, so now I've gotten 4 or 5 stitches, and then I give a gentle pull to close it up. And you see how that looks. Now, the difference here is when I did this stitch, this little ladder stitch, which I called it, it was a really tight fit. And I kind of like that. And this one's a little looser because I'm doing that blind stitch. Now I could stitch closer into this edge, but I might just continue with the ladder stitch. Okay, and I'll be back showing you how to finish it. I'm going to go ahead and continue. Okay, I'm coming to the end of this little mending job. And as you can see, I switched from, this was where the blind stitch was, and then I switched back to kind of my ladder stitch here. it doesn't look perfect, and I'm personally totally fine with things not looking perfect. I feel like, you know, this is meant to be on a bed and kind of far away from things, and no one's going to be looking at these stitches, and it looks a heck of a lot better than it did when it was gaping open. Also, when I made this, the top part was bigger than the bottom part, so I had to kind of fold it under and just kind of keep going. And you know, you make adjustments. You're mending, you're not making things brand new and perfect. So I'm just going to finish it up and tie it off. And I feel so good about this, even though it's not perfect, because I won't have to look at that, like I won't have to hide that like gaping hole in my pillow anymore. And to finish it off, I'm just doing a little easy tie, just sticking it through both layers. Again, I have that loop right there that's created. I don't pull it all the way tight, and then I do that. And I make one more for good measure. Go through the loop right there. Oh, sorry. Get that done. There. That's mended. I'm really happy with it. Okay, finally, I'm gonna hem this pair of pants. Now, on this pair of pants, I'm really tall, so I don't usually have to hem things up, but on this pair of pants, my hem came out, and I'm gonna show you how to put it back in. But this is also applicable if you need to hem pants. So I'm gonna bring you in and show you how to hem real quick. Okay, now this is a hem that fell out, and I need to put it back together. So all you have to do, so you have these two layers right here, and also this is the original manufacturing way they did it, and this is serged along here. So if you were to cut this off, you would need to finish this by kind of pressing it under like this and sewing it. But the idea of hemming by hand is that you can have this kind of look. Which is sort of a smooth look without the stitched bottom. So there's no need to hand hem if you don't have this kind of nice trouser look. Okay, so here we go. I'm just going to insert my needle, and this time I also used a coordinating thread to the fabric, which is pretty important when you're hemming. And then I already tied a knot at the end. So I'm just going to insert one layer, not in both, and make a little stitch there, so that holds. Okay, so we're just going to we're just going to take just a little bit of this other layer. You just want the littlest bit. See this? Just a little bit right there on the front layer, because you don't want it excuse me, to show. So just a little bit, so you kind of have a vertical little line right there. And then so and then we're going to do a nice diagonal stitch underneath, in between the layers. So a tiny bit of this one, that's too big. That's even too big. If you get really good at hemming, you can take very tiny amounts of the front layer. Okay, push your needle vertically like this, and then you just get into a rhythm. Take a little bit and get into this vertical, this kind of diagonal, see, that feels kind of big. And don't pull too hard, because then you have these little puckers in your pants. Okay, let me show you the other side. You can't even see, but it is see, you can kind of barely see my little tiny stitches in there. Coordinating thread is a big must for doing a nice hem job. And then you just keep going. Take a little bit of that front fabric, a nice diagonal stretch between the two layers, then you come up just on this inside layer and repeat. I think the most important thing about hemming is getting into a rhythm. Okay, so that is finished. And I'm just going to probably go press it to kind of get out all these little, and then that will make those even less visible. But that is basically hemming. Now, this isn't as good a job as the manufacturer did with their with their machines. But it's pretty good, and mending is about making things usable still. They're not about making them perfect again. And if you want them to be perfect, you need to go ahead and pay a professional seamstress. But that's it. All mended. I can wear them again. I'm really happy about that. Okay, I hope those 4 little mending projects were helpful to you, and that you are able to fix up some clothes like I'm able to do. Usually get like a little pile going and just spend an hour or 2 just mending, and it makes a big difference in keeping your clothes nice. So I hope that helps, and it gives you something to do that's useful and helpful during this time. And I'll see you next time. And don't forget to check out my sponsor, Skillshare. Bye-bye.